Hey guys, happy Sunday. I just filmed a 45-minute video with no sound, like the sound cut out within 2 minutes. So I'm going through this process currently of like trying to convince myself that I hated that video and that it was very bad and I was gonna refilm it anyways. So I'm gonna be emotionally dealing with that for a few minutes and then we're gonna get started. Okay, I have much more to say now than I did in the previous 45-minute period. Today we're going to be talking about purpose as an ENFP, and purpose is this term that I personally kind of hate. Like I feel like it's a made-up term, and whenever you have a made-up term, it's really easy to manipulate that term and to get other people to do things they don't necessarily want to do because you're promising them something that isn't actually real. I studied psychology for a lot of years, and it's an important field that I'm glad we have, but I also think there is this phenomenon in the field of mental health where we blame every single problem that someone has on themselves and their mindset, when in reality, a lot of the time, the problem is that there's a mismatch between the self and the environment. So you're just not in a place that feels good or authentic or right for you and that's providing you with the things that you need based on the person that you are. And psychology can get stuck in the trap of trying to fit the person to the environment and going, okay, well, if you're working a 9 to 5 and your basic needs are covered and you have, a couple people in your life who you can relate to, then you should be happy. And if you're not happy, you're sick. And that's not always the case. A lot of the time, we're trying to psychoanalyze or medicate people into a life that just isn't authentic or genuine for them. And that's not to say that we never need either medication or psychoanalysis, but I think a lot of the time, especially for intuitive types, they're just living lives that aren't really aligned with who they actually are and how their mind actually works, because the world was built for people who are not like us, because statistically we're a much smaller percentage of the population. So we have to find other routes to growth and fulfillment, and they're gonna look very different than they are for the average person. So today, when I say purpose or being on your purpose or being on your path in life, what I mean is living in a way that is in alignment with who you actually are as a person and what actually brings you to life. So your purpose is whatever makes you feel really alive, really engaged with being alive. Like you wake up in the morning and you're excited that you exist that day. That is your purpose. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about purpose. I'm talking about that feeling of aliveness and vitality and alignment with your life. So please don't mistake this for me telling you that you need to find significance through working the same job for 40 years or getting married at a certain age or whatever. I'm not going to tell you any of that. Today we're going to talk about specifically why you need your own definition of those things. So Tony Robbins, who a lot of people think is an ENFP, I don't really know. I haven't watched enough of his videos to be able to make that assessment myself. But he has these 6 basic human needs that he believes everyone needs to feel fulfilled. And those needs are certainty, uncertainty, significance, connection/love, growth, and contribution. It's hard to put this finger up without putting this finger up. And I think that a lot of people that we meet growing up really have that certainty need. So that need for life to be kind of headed in a singular, certain direction and to know that everything's going to work out a certain way, especially if you value sensing. There tends to be a strong need for certainty in your worldview. Sensing perceivers less so, but sensing judgers very much so. So if you're an ENFP or any other NP type that's grown up in a society that really, really values certainty, you might not realize just how big your need for uncertainty is. And uncertainty doesn't necessarily mean that your life is in shambles. It doesn't mean you don't have a home to live in or you don't have anything kind of figured out. It just means that there's a lot of new stuff happening for you. So there's a lot of new ideas that you're going through or feelings that you're feeling or things that you're exploring. I think that NP types tend to have incredibly high needs for uncertainty, but we don't always value that need for uncertainty because we don't really see it as a need. We see it as something that's flawed or broken in us. So step 1 of kind of finding your purpose as an ENFP is accepting what your needs are. You will never feel aligned with your life or excited about your life or like you're on the right path if you are denying what you actually need to be happy and fulfilled. But what we're going to talk about is what it's going to feel like, so kind of some guideposts that you'll be hitting if you are living in alignment with your purpose. Because I see a lot of people kind of working these jobs that they hate, being in these relationships they're unhappy with, and they're like, oh, well, maybe this is my purpose. No, if you hate it, it's not your purpose. So that is point number 1. The number 1 guidepost or kind of sign that you are living in alignment with your purpose as an ENFP is that you aren't bored constantly. The ENFP's greatest strength is the amount of information we're able to take in and analyze and understand and convey to other people in a very simple and straightforward way. And if your mind is not actively engaged in the process of doing that and you feel like you're just thinking the same thoughts over and over and over again, it's becoming mind numbing, you are not living in alignment with your purpose. You're on some bullshit that is absolutely not what you were here to do, because what you are here to do is feel excited about being alive, is taking in a ton of new information, learning new things, growing in new ways, and then conveying that growth to other people. Tim Ferriss, who I believe is an ENTP, once said, the opposite of happiness is not sadness, it's boredom. And I think that that is so true for ENP types, maybe any of the NP types. Because when we are intellectually stimulated and we're excited by new ideas and our brains are full of new things to think about and chew on, we are so productive, we are so charismatic, we are like these balls of energy and purpose. If you are pushing down the things that make you excited because you want acceptance, or because you want steady work, or because you want some form of validation that you feel like you can only get by hiding who you are absolutely throwing away what you are here to do, which is to learn, to grow, to share, to connect on those things. And that leads me to point number 2. So guidepost number 2 for telling that you're living in alignment with your purpose as an ENFP is that you are attracting people to you who are like you. So if you want to know what kind of energy you're giving off, look at the people around you. Who are you surrounded by? Who are your friends? Who are your colleagues? Who do you talk to the most on a day-to-day basis? When you are so engaged with the things that you love, with the ideas that you want to share, with the adventures that you want to have, you will naturally find yourself surrounded by other people who are really engaged with those things as well, because you are putting that out into the world and allowing other people to find you and connect with you on it. So I spent years of my life not engaged with any of the things that I loved, because when I was younger, I just thought I had to grow up into this like SJ ideal, because my entire family was SJ types. And there's nothing wrong with the SJ ideal if you're an SJ, right? Like most of the people in my family are like bankers or government workers or whatever, and that's totally fine, but it was not the life that I wanted. So growing up, I would kind of end up in these scenarios where I was like, okay, people approve of me, but like my friends are not similar to me, my family is not similar to me. I'm not really interacting with anyone on a day-to-day basis who's like me. And I kind of had this epiphany at a certain point where I was like, where are the people like me? They're probably out there doing the things that I don't have the balls to do, because they're just living as the people that they are. So I started traveling, I started freelance writing, I started talking about the things that I was really interested in and engaged with, and oh my God, people who were like me showed up everywhere. As soon as I started traveling, I made all of these perceiver friends who just wanted every day of their life to look different than the day before. As soon as I started talking a lot about typology, I got this entire internet community of people who loved typology. And as soon as I started going after the kind of life that I wanted, I found more and more people who were also going after the lives that they wanted. And that ambition was very exciting to be around. It feels really good to be around people who want similar things to you and who can kind of walk down that path with you. If your environment's full of people who don't understand you, you might want to look at yourself as the common denominator there. What are you hiding? What are you not putting out there to allow people to connect with you on that you're secretly thinking about or wishing you had some connection points on? So if you can be brave enough, if you can be honest enough with yourself to start pursuing what you know in your gut you're here to pursue, I promise you, other people will start showing up on your path to encourage you that you're on the right route. It happens not by magic, but because people are just drawn to people who share their worldviews. So if you're putting yourself out there, other people are going to be able to see that and to come find those connection points with you in a way that they're never going to be able to do if you're keeping yourself hidden. Sign number 3, that you're living in alignment with your purpose as an ENFP, the bad days still feel meaningful. Today, I recorded a 45-minute video with no mic on, and that was so annoying, but it was nowhere near as annoying as it would have been if I were recording a video that I felt no passion about. If anything, this felt like, oh, this is my opportunity to do it even better and with even more enthusiasm, because I can learn from the first time around. So when I was in university, I had an ENFP professor one year who taught a class on building healthy relationships. He was like an ex-marriage and family therapist. And something he used to say that I loved so much was, people stay in bad situations, whether that's bad relationships, bad jobs, whatever it is, because they don't understand the difference between growing pain and pain. And what he meant by that was that certain challenges in our life, certain difficult things we come across, certain problems that we have, bring us to a better place. So we go through them and we find ways to move through them as effectively as possible, because we know that they're bringing us to somewhere we want to be. It's literally like breaking down our muscles so that they can build back stronger when we start weight training. But pain is just suffering. So the problems or challenges in our lives that bring us nowhere, they just keep us trapped in this never-ending cycle of suffering and pain and self-neglect. And if you can learn to tell the difference between which of your problems are growing you and bringing you closer and closer to a place you want to be versus which of your challenges are doing nothing but draining you of your energy and vitality, it's going to become a whole lot easier to realize which paths you should be walking down and which ones you should just leave behind forever. Which problems do you like having is one of the best questions you can ever ask yourself in life. Mark Manson has a piece on this. I know he tests INTP, but I would bet my entire family's life on ENFP for him. And he has this whole piece on like, what kind of shit sandwich do you want to eat in your life? But that's really what it is. Like, figure out what you love so much that you will do anything to get that thing, and that all of the little obstacles that stand in your way of that thing don't feel as tedious because you know that you're on the path towards somewhere you want to go. That's a really, really big indication that you are living in alignment with whatever version of purpose you believe to be true for your life. You will feel like even the tedious stuff is meaningful because it's bringing you somewhere. So signpost number 4, that you're probably living in alignment with your purpose as an ENFP, you are thinking less about yourself and more about the world around you. So when ENFPs are depressed or feeling down, we have a tendency to kind of over-rely on FI. And by the way, if you don't know what the cognitive functions are, or you don't know what I'm saying when I say like NEFI, TESI, I do run a 6-week soul bootcamp course for ENFP personalities and INFP personalities, where we talk in detail about what the cognitive functions you use are and how they show up in different areas of your life. So at work, at school, in your relationships. We're gonna wake up at 5 a.m., read for 20 minutes, journal for 20 minutes, meditate for 20 minutes, exercise for 20 minutes, clean for 20 minutes, dance like no one's watching for 20 minutes, face our fears for 20 minutes, meal prep for 20 minutes. Okay. NE, you know this is my wet dream, but I have to stop you right there. There's no way in hell we're realistically gonna do this for any more than like 1 to 2 mornings in a row. Honestly, it seems like NE has kind of forgotten that it's me who wakes up first in the morning, so after about 2 days, once the fantasy of this wears off, I'm hitting snooze so hard. So the course is kind of like watching the movie Inside Out, but for the ENFP brain specifically. So you learn who these kind of characters are who make up your mind and how they show up for you and how you can work with those characters so they're not fighting all the time, but they're working cohesively and getting along. NE, I'm gonna make this easy for you to understand. I have been working directly under FI for a long time now. Yeah. And you might think you're making the decisions around here, NE, because you're coming up with all of these possibilities, but you're not who's actually deciding on them. FI's doing that. So if you come up with an idea that you love, even if I love it and SI also loves it, it's not gonna happen unless FI loves it. NE, you have to factor me in. Give me a change that I love and I will enlist TE and we will make it happen consistently, long term, for our entire lives if you want. You just have to stop ignoring me in this process. I am literally your decision-making function. You're right. You're right. So anyway, auxiliary FI, which is our second cognitive function, it's very introspective, it's very self-analytical, it has a great grasp on self-awareness. But what we can do as ENFPs is overindulge FI when we're feeling depressed and get this almost obsessive idea that if we just look hard enough, if we just crack whatever code it is that we're struggling to crack, we will figure out what's wrong with us. But sometimes the problem is not the self, it's the self in relation to the environment, which we talked a little bit about at the beginning of this. When ENFPs are at their best is when they're engaging very vastly and very widely and very enthusiastically with the world outside of their minds. We are extroverts and we forget that when we're depressed. We forget that when we're feeling down. We forget that when we're burnt out. But we are giant ass E's and we are supposed to be living in a very extroverted way. So if you start to find 90% of your thoughts are very circular, very self-absorbed, very obsessed with figuring out like exactly what's wrong with you, exactly what's happening inside your mind, exactly what led you to where you are. There's nothing wrong with doing a little bit of that, but if you're doing a lot of that and you're very rarely thinking about what's going on for other people, what's happening in the world, what opportunities exist for you to explore in the world outside your mind, you are not living in alignment with your purpose. You're getting stuck in kind of an FI loop. Maybe you need some new adventures. Maybe you need some new opportunities. Maybe you need to go meet someone who's going to change the way you think about things. When ENFPs are living in alignment with their purpose, they are taking in humongous amounts of new information. Our minds are wired in a way that very few people's minds are wired. Extroverted intuition is a very rare cognitive function. It really is. I've met maybe 5 other ENFPs 4-ish ENTPs in my life, not a lot of people are able to take in the sheer amount of stimuli, the sheer amount of information that NP types are able to take in and to make sense of it. And the fact that we have that ability means that if we are not using it, oh my God, what a waste of an incredible mind. So yes, focus on yourself, but also notice when that focus is becoming more narcissistic than it is growing. So are you focusing on yourself in a way that is opening more doors for you, in a way that is leading you to good places where you want to go? Or are you just navel gazing because it feels less scary than going out and interacting with the world? And I understand that. I have been there way more times than I feel comfortable admitting, but oh my God, it does not serve you. And that brings us to our last signpost that you're on the right path as an ENFP, which is that you do not feel done. You feel like you are in a perpetual state of learning and growth. So it is so tempting for any type to want to have arrived somewhere, to kind of go, okay, now I'm at this place where I have no problems, I have no challenges, I have nothing I need to tackle, I can just kind of sit back, relax, and my life feels good. And you know what? That's great for like a month. But if it's going on for years of your life, what you're actually doing is plateauing, and that plateau is going to lead to depression. And when you reach a good place and then plateau, that depression feels really confusing because it's like, wait a minute, I met all my needs, I met my goals, I should be happy. I have this INTJ friend who's a teacher, and he told me one time about an experiment he did with his kids where he asked them to fill up a cup of water all the way up to the brim and then walk from the classroom down to the river that was by their school without spilling any water. And when they were walking, because their cups were so full, all they could do was focus really intensely on nothing spilling out of their cup. And by the time they got down to the river, he was like, how was the walk here? Did you enjoy it? Did you see the beautiful sights? And everyone was like, no, we're so worried about our cups not spilling that we couldn't enjoy anything. And being the INTJ that he is, he explained to them that that cup is like your ego. And when it's too full, and by your ego being full, I mean having things in your life that you feel like you can't lose. So let's say you have a really good job or a really good relationship or whatever. When you're so focused on preserving those things that you absolutely can't let anything spill, you miss out on your entire life while it's happening to you. So the best place to be in is to have a cup that's like 3/4 full, because you can walk places, you feel like, okay, I'm not panicked about not having anything in my cup, but I'm also not panicked about something going wrong and losing this. Right? You can let a little bit of water spill out. You can be in a great place and then let some change happen. Let some things that once felt good go because they're breeding monotony now. And again, the opposite of happiness for the NE-Dom is boredom. You need room in your cup to welcome in new things. To let yourself do that without feeling guilty, you have to accept that need for uncertainty. You have to accept that need for growth. You have to be willing to let yourself put those things at the absolute top of your priority list, because those are the things that you need to stay happy long term. It is great to arrive at the mountaintop of personal or professional or interpersonal success, but it is not great to live there. It gets lonely and windy up there. You have to let yourself arrive at one peak and then start thinking about the next one. That does not make you impractical. It makes you a person who understands themselves and knows what they need. So my hope for all of us as ENFPs is not that we achieve outstanding career success, is not that we find perfect relationships, is not that our lives go incredibly smoothly and according to plan. I hope things trip you up. I hope you get confused, you get lost, you get disoriented, and I hope that the process of finding your way back and finding new creative solutions to all of those problems brings you to life, because you thrive in uncertainty. You thrive when things are challenging. You thrive when there is not yet an established route forward and someone needs to be inventive and find one. That is why NE exists. That is why ENFP and ENTP and INTP and INFP personalities were put into the world to find creative routes forward. I'm going to end this with one of my other favorite quotes by Howard Thurman that goes, "Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go and do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." And that is the entire summary of what it means to be living out your purpose as an ENFP. Come alive. Because whatever it is that's happening when you feel the most vital and the most engaged and the most inspired by your own life is exactly what you were put here to do. And I hope that in a million completely different ways across the course of your life, you find a way to do that. All right, I think that's it for today, now that I know my microphone is working. But again, if you are in a place of self-discovery, of growth, of wanting new things to reach out and do and connect and experience, and you're looking for other people who are on that same path, I do run ENFP Soul Bootcamp courses for this exact purpose, for helping people realize what it is that makes them feel really invigorated and excited and alive and what they want to pursue out of their lives. And so if that's something that you're interested in exploring at this phase of your life, you can go to my website at www.heidipriebe.com and you can sign up there. And hopefully the next time we talk, we'll have a lot more clarity about what that means for you. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. I love all of you. I hope that whatever phase, whatever season of your life you're in, there's something that you're feeling really engaged by, because that's really all I can ever hope for us, is that we feel interested in our lives. So let me know what that is in the comments. What are you interested in right now? What's like really exciting for you? I'm super into video making and attachment styles, as you may have noticed. But what is it that's lighting you guys up right now? We have such a wide variety of interests in the ENFP community. So let's share those a little bit. And I will see you guys, if not before then, next Sunday. All right.